Good morning, Alisal. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to 2 days until we officially start remote instruction. Welcome to the Monday, March 23rd, 2020 edition of the Livestream PD broadcast. So before we get going in proper, I would like to express some gratitude for things that seeing around the district, and a lot in email and a lot in video calls and Google Hangouts. First off, a thank you to all of you who have been so positive and are really sticking to that growth mindset, that hashtag yet. I don't know how to do this yet. I'm learning. I'm starting to get overwhelmed, but I'm going to keep persisting. That's amazing, and it helps to continue to drive us. So thank you very much. I would like to also recognize all of the classified staff who are still out at the school sites working, greeting parents. I heard from Mr. De Leon at MLK, that Thursday and Friday, I think they served over 1,000 meals to our kids and families, to people in our community, the custodians who are doing that deep clean and making sure the buildings are okay, the frontline clerical staff who are still greeting and working with families, all the folks at the AFRCs who are helping our community access services, things like file unemployment forms and such. This really is such an amazing district to be a part of, to see how we continue to serve the Alisal. And it's not true everywhere. So it's just an amazing place to work, and I want to make sure that everybody's aware of what everybody's doing. And if I know that this week maybe feels a little bit more high pressure, high stress, but if you think about that school secretary that you used to see every morning who might still be at the front desk, or think about maybe your administrator passing out lunches, if you want to just drop them a quick note and let them know that you're thinking of them, that I think would be great. I know that they would really appreciate it. So for the rest of this week, today will be live Q&A. We will go Wednesday and Friday. We will be at 9:30. We understand that Wednesday is the first day of remote instruction, but remember, it's not like you have a room full of kids to manage, and these are all recorded. So if you miss anything, you can always come back to it. We will be formulating topics based on some of today's questions, but also on some of the suggestions that we've gotten. We probably won't be doing live yoga classes or Zumba led by Celia, but we probably will be doing something around mindfulness, both for you and for your students. So let's talk about mindset. Let's talk about our approach to this week. So think of this week as beta testing. Josh, what's beta testing? Well, here we go. Beta test is, as you can see, a trial of machinery, software, or other products in its final stages of development. I think that no matter how long this goes, we will probably all be in some form of development in this modality of teaching. But the thing about a beta test is you're finding places where it works really great, and you're finding places where it doesn't work. When something's in its beta testing phase, they say it's in beta. I got a great email from Miss Roberts at MLK, go MLK, that we will be talking about in a few minutes, but she talks about her beta kids. So she's trying things out. Remember, it's okay to continue to try things out. Not everything's going to work. Doesn't mean you failed. Doesn't mean the kids fail. Doesn't mean the tech failed. Just didn't work. Don't worry about why, unless it was really close and you're like, how can I make this work? And that's where we'll step in. What I'm trying to have you understand is manage your expectations of yourself and your kids. Remember, this is still everybody's first time. I think I might have said it before in the broadcast, but last week was the longest month of our lives here in the ed tech department. I'm sure you guys feel the same way, and it's okay to be in that space. Just give yourself the grace to be teaching in beta right now. So let's go over some highlights of what remote instruction is and what it isn't. So I'm not going to read all 8 bullet points here. I'm just going to hit the highlights. So remember that it is supporting students by giving feedback, online support materials, and virtual check-ins, keeping kids connected to us and to their classmates. And I'm going to feature that in my upcoming talk here. And then the next thing, remember what it isn't. It isn't you live in front of your computer all day, every day. That's not good for you, and it's not good for our kids. And remember that it's not packets of worksheets or digital things without teacher support. They have to have it. And remember, no one expects you to be perfect at this. You are probably going to be your worst critic. So as I've been saying, be kind, be good to yourself. So again, to remember why we're focusing so much on this mode of remote instruction. So the governor's mandate, among many, for us as educators specifically. For example, that's why we continue to serve meals. It's part of the governor's mandate. Is high quality instruction. Not identical quality to what we provide in person. You are irreplaceable as an educator. However, we can come as close as we can, or we will try to get as close as we can. Worksheets without teacher support is not instruction. The same is true for digital content. Just sending them to Khan Academy without some support from you, without checking in on them, is not really instruction. Teacher support is key here, and it's happening in a brand new way. And some of you have already had meet calls with your kids, and that's fantastic. My favorite comment was the teacher who said they really needed it, and I was surprised how much I needed to see them again. So here's what we're going to be talking about. We're really, of our 4 factors, communicate, teach, connect, assess, really talking about teach and connect right now. You're not in the room with them. I know, duh, Josh, right? But you're not in the room. We're going to need to be very intentional about checks for understanding. And I don't just mean the question feature in Google Classroom is a great check for understanding. Tools in Seesaw. Some of you are using Flipgrid. Those are great tools. But think of the kid who doesn't raise his or her hand, but you can look at their face and know she doesn't got it, or she does have it. You don't have that right now. So you're going to need to be much more intentional about it, which comes to the next bullet point. For right now, while we're in beta, you need to moderate your content coverage expectations. You can't move as quickly through because you can't sort of watch them, be over the shoulder looking at papers, then call your small group. So this might get much more personalized, this checking for understanding, and that's okay. That's the important thing here. Be intentional and don't insist that you get through as much content. It's going to be very important in this modality to make sure you're not leaving a kid behind, or that you're catching it when they're starting to fall. So don't feel like you need to cover as much. And guidelines about this are being formulated and finalized and covered, and they will be communicated to you. The last thing is, don't forget the reading. I'm sure I don't have to tell all of you this, but assigning daily reading is a perfectly good thing to have them do. Perfectly good. And I'm sure there are some moms and dads who will be happy for the quiet time. But don't forget the reading. And whether that's coming back on an AR quiz or a reading log, some evidence of it, the reading is always a good idea. And then this week especially, and probably this week and next week, look at your lesson plans, see how much you're getting through. But this last bullet, when I say gather information on time spent, I mean from your students and families. There might be something that you think is going to take 15 minutes, and you find out it takes most of your family's 45. That's a piece of information that's going to help you to lesson plan moving forward. Could happen the other direction. Oh, this will take 30 minutes. All my kids finished it in 5. Oops. Be very intentional. Intentionality is going to be important this week and next week to give us, think of it like your first year teaching, when you would lesson plan. For me, it would be my first 3 years teaching. Lesson plan and go, oh, that went faster, or that took way longer than I thought. Like, keep that in mind. So, speaking of which, I hope you're visiting the LSAL remote instruction webpage. We are working really hard on it. And we're going to go and take a look, because I have gathered some sample schedules and some lesson planning tools, and some of these are to communicate, telling kids what they have to do. Some of these will be what you could share with kids. Some of these will be closer to planning tools for you and maybe your team. So if we jump out to the website here, so here's our home page, and where we're going to come to is the content and pedagogy page. Now, you're going to be tempted to just go to these drop downs, but there is a landing page for content and pedagogy. And what's on here are some sample schedules for remote instruction. This one comes from the UK. This is obviously going to be something that we post in Seesaw or Classroom. These are Google Slides. You can make a copy of them. It's like a template. And then you can see you can fill in things like the date, marking off that they're having breakfast, lunch, dinner. This is helpful to make sure they're eating correctly. If you have a live call scheduled in Google Meet, things to do in all the subjects. There's a place for parent guide. It's just really cool. This other one is from an international school in Vietnam. And let's jump out to this. I think this is a planning tool for teachers. And the really cool thing is each one of these is linked to a video. It's the instructional video. It's the Screencastify they've made for the letter sound of I or the letter sound S. It's a really cool planning tool. So heading back here, and then there's a calendar if you want to plan. Probably week at a time is a good way to communicate those. And again, some of these are to send home, and some of these are going to be for you and your colleagues and grade level team. Then this one right here, this is a folder. Again, this symbol right here, anything that we embed where you see this is this sort of gray square with the pop-out arrow. Let me show you what that does. Is it jumps us right into a place where now that we're here, I can right click, for example. Some of these are JPEGs, which means they're just images to inspire you. But if I right click, anything in here you can make a copy of, and that copy will live in your Google Drive. So I think hopefully that will be really helpful. Yeah, so that's on the website. So keep in mind as you're planning it and going through things that there's that page under content and pedagogy. And again, we're adding constantly. This week we will be making tutorials for students and parents at home into getting into some things that we know are sort of regular problems, and we're coming up with that. So I mentioned Miss Linda Roberts at MLK, and she sent this note into us, and I'm sure the print is small, so I will go ahead and read it. And on the live stream PD page of our website, I will have a link to the resource she's mentioning here. So Ms. Roberts writes, my class is enrolled in the UNICEF Kid Power-Ups. These are dance, yoga instructional videos geared towards kids. The wonderful aspect of UNICEF Kid Power-Up videos is the more the videos the students watch and do, the more gold power-up coins the class earns to donate. Trees to be planted, meals for needy families, and pediatrician appointments. This is part of UNICEF's community focus campaign, separate from the Fitbit bands. So it does not require the Fitbit bands, which your class is also doing. It costs teachers nothing to create a UNICEF Kid Power-Up account. You see the website is unicefkidpower.org. Again, it will be posted on the website later. Prior to our COVID-19 dynamic, the Power Up videos could only be accessed by teachers to play in the classroom. Now, UNICEF has opened up access to the videos so that I can assign videos to my students for them to get moving at home. My beta students tried it out last night and are requesting more videos. And I did not collaborate with Miss Roberts on the whole beta. What is beta testing? It's just serendipity. I have been very concerned. This is Miss Roberts again. I've been very concerned about our students gaining weight during this time and all that that entails. During meets, I've noticed many students eating every time. These videos are a great way to build in transition, brain breaks, and give back at the same time. When my students experienced their first collective donation of purchasing trees, medical visits, and meals with Power Up Gold coins, it was impactful and empowering moment. So thank you very much, Miss Roberts, for that. I think there's several really important points here. Is one, it's free and it's something that the class can rally around. Second, movement is going to be key. If you look at some of the examples we've posted, there's teachers who put in their lesson slides like a 5 or 10 minute movement break. I don't have to tell you guys about Go Noodle, so they need to go Noodle. And then this idea that we can still impact the world outside our homes even when we are stuck inside our homes. It's a great thing. Thank you for sharing, Miss Roberts. So again, do you have something to share, awesome to share for the live stream or the website? Please email it to edtech@alisal.org. In the subject, please put for the web or the live stream. So I wanted to let you know on behalf of Miss Ana Cordero that for primary teachers, kinder through second teachers, and I'm imagining it will apply to TK, although I'm not sure, so forgive me if I'm wrong. Lesson planning live stream, it will be today. It will be at 1:30 in the afternoon, hosted by Miss Ana Cordero. Please look for emails. She's going to send you the links to all those things. And as far as I know, it will be recorded and it will be webbed later along with all of our live stream PD in case you miss it. Also for tomorrow, a continuation of his live stream from Friday. Ben, tomorrow, that's 3:24. Also at 9:30 in the morning. It will be the same link that the live stream was for before, but he will be finishing up as much as you finish professional development ever. He will be finishing up his Seesaw for Schools activities, part 2, making them and using them and designing them. That will be tomorrow morning at 9:30. For grades 3 and up, we will see you again Wednesday. Remember, direct from the EdTech office today, Wednesday, Friday, always 9:30. And I understand that you might want to get stuff going in the morning. Anything you miss will be recorded. We want to give you the afternoon to plan and apply is always the reason. So we have a few points of clarification. So let's talk about efficiency. To the EdTech office right now, we are probably receiving between Hangouts, Meet calls, text messages, and emails, roughly 300 pieces of communication a day right now. And not a majority, but a significant portion are not really for EdTech. So that does two things. It slows us down in answering the things that are for us, and it slows down answers for those folks because we either have to forward it for you or we have to tell you that's not us. So IT and we got together and we want to make some clarifications for you guys. So EdTech. EdTech is anything teaching tools. So your Google tools, Seesaw for Schools, Screencastify, think of us as skills to use your technology for teaching, not necessarily curriculum, but skill-based. We are training and communications. And we like to say that we work with hearts and minds, and IT works with boxes and wires. To get a hold of us or to send in a help request for us, please email edtech@alisol.org. The reason we're asking you to use edtech as opposed to my email or Celia's or George's is because the three of us all get access to the edtech@alisol account. It means three of us can look in one place. And that means that anything we need to put our heads together, we can do that. For IT is hardware and break fix. What break fix means is something's broken, they fix it. They deal with hardware. Teacher equipment, student devices. We're going to talk about that some more. Networking and filtering, the network and access to systems. Filtering is what gets through our content filter. That's what blocks things like YouTube. If you need help with your portal or your student's portal, if you need help with Power Schools, they are box and wires. That system, the help ticket system, is still in place. And if we're getting 300 pieces of communication a day, I'm pretty sure they're getting as much, if not more. In addition, they're trying to acquire hotspots. In addition, they're repurposing Chromebooks to go out to kids because we've gone all the way through our device reserve and getting them out to all the kids who need them, and to replace the ones that we are just finding out last week were broken or something was wrong with them. Continue to file help desk tickets. Please don't email them. This is their request. Go into your portal. Please submit a help ticket. Please don't email them directly. Their help ticket system is kind of like our edtech@alisol.org. They can all look at it, and they have so much support request, so many support requests that they need a way to track it and to monitor when things are done and to collaborate and to help each other. So please know who to send it to and try and work the proper channels, especially in the super busy time. It's really critical. So when this is for both EdTech and IT. So when you need help, please give us, here's some pro tips to help us help you. I feel like Jerry Maguire. Help me help you. Okay. Ow. Please give us some context. Simply saying Seesaw's not working for my kids, we don't know where to start with that. Please tell us what you've tried, what you are attempting to do. Don't necessarily leave things out because you're like, oh, I don't need to know that. It's interesting how little details we stumble on when communicating with you, how those help us. And then if you can send pictures or screenshots, that's often very, very helpful. And if you don't know how to do a screenshot on a Mac, we can send a tip out in email. From IT, please submit. So parents are starting to contact IT directly. There will be an email coming out about one-to-one device support for students. IT is still working. Broken or student devices in need of repair need to not go to the sites anymore, but to IT. But a help ticket has to come in first. Please submit help tickets on behalf of your parents as well. If parents contact IT directly, they have no way of verifying that it's the right person. They've had requests for passwords. They have no real way of verifying that it's the right person. So they're asking that the families tell you and that you submit help tickets on behalf of your families. This is a confidentiality issue. And the last thing highlighted there in orange from IT is they're getting a lot of requests from Lexia and AR and Seesaw and support requests. And they said something like 90% of the fix is don't go through the old bookmarks or the old icons on the shelf. If your students go through the portal to Lexia or AR or Seesaw for schools, that should fix most of it. So make sure to direct your kids through that way instead of any old bookmarks they might have or old icons on the bottom of the front screen of their Chromebook. Try that first. And then when you submit a help ticket, if you've already had the kid do that and you know that the student's done it, then put that in the help ticket, right? So tell us what you've already done so we can skip over that step and not waste time. Lastly, I know that when Chromebooks first came out, a lot of teachers were issued a Chromebook so they could get used to them. And I know some of you probably have a Chromebook either in your home that you haven't opened in a few weeks or months, or maybe in your classroom that you're not using. Like I said, we are pulling everything we can to try and by we I mean IT. So kudos to IT. If you have even just one in your classroom that was your teacher one that's locked in a cabinet, if you wouldn't mind letting IT know, or you can get into your classroom. I know a couple of teachers last week were still working in their rooms because they felt like it was more productive, or for whatever reason. Just know that you may work from home. I don't think anyone told those teachers they had to come in because it was just one or two here or there, but you definitely can. As far as I know, the rooms have been cleaned, and no one's been in them anyway for over a week now. So please let IT know, even just one or two here or there. Like, if all we get from this is 5, it's 5 more we have to give to kids, right? So if you're not using it, if you're using it and you really do need it, keep using it. If you don't, then please let IT know, or bring it in, or tell them where they can go get it, and so it can go out to a new home. Okay, so we've gotten some standard questions about Google Meets. So first off, there's no time limit on Google Meets. It's like a phone call. So it's not like Screencastify, which now is unlimited for you. You could read all of War and Peace and record it. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can do that. So how many kids can I have in a call at once? Up to 250. I was thinking as I was typing the slide, oh, we could do like 6th grade promotions on Google Meet. But you can have up to 250, so you can definitely get your class. You could theoretically have all the teachers in your grade meet with all the kids in your grade all at once. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. Sometimes it's like the Mount Everest thing. We do it just because we can. The Meet calls, you're watching me on a live stream. Meet does both. It does video conferencing, calling, and live stream. Live stream is in district only, but the calls can be used outside the district. Google Meet has been available to us for years, and I have used it to talk with vendors, with folks in other districts, with teachers all over the country. I know for a fact it can be used outside the district. Next, teachers can mute students. If you go to our webpage, under teaching tools, go to the Google Meet page and you can find the written out tutorial how to do it, or you can go back to, I think, day 3 last week, where we spent the whole time on Google Hangouts and Google Meet, and you can see you absolutely can mute students. Students cannot record the call. That is turned off for them. So if you were testing it with another teacher and it's like, oh, the other people can record the calls, it's because it's turned on for teachers, not turned on for students. Students cannot record. IT, Clemente, Mr. Villarreal, who's the director of IT, and I sorted out how to turn off students' ability to initiate calls. So students will not be able to initiate calls to each other. And then the next thing is also, if you go to the Google Meet page of our website, you can see the Google support blog. They have heard that educators want more tools for Google Meet. Those improvements should be rolled out. Google never releases new features to everybody all at once. It rolls out over a matter of weeks. So I think they made the announcement Friday, and it's up to 3 weeks for full implementation. So some of you might get those features sooner than later. Once those features are fully rolled out, we will probably do another screencast showing you how best to take full advantage of those. In the meantime, best practices about thinking of Meet as your classroom and always being the last one out, maybe staying for a little bit, see if anybody tries to pop back in. Some of those problems are going to be going away, and we've mitigated them some with student-to-student calls being turned off, but improvements are coming to Meet. Meet is integrated. We know it's HIPAA and FERPA compliant. We know that we have parent permission for it. Right now, it is the only video call tool that we are supporting as a district, and the only one that is approved to use with students. There's a way you can do audio where you can call into it. If you want to use it with parents, you should be able to use the video call with parents. We've heard from some that it's something's going on. But again, this is a situation where we need more context than it doesn't work with my parents. I need some more help there, guys. Okay. Carrying on. All right. I get to stop talking. So I'm sure questions have been coming in on the Google form, and George and Celia are going to start jumping in, and I'm going to stop presenting to screen, and we will start with your questions right away. So take it away, George and Celia.
Sorry, everybody. Here we are, and I think we are set to go. So I'm here with Celia, and say good morning, Celia. We don't know, we've never done this. We don't know how it's going to go. All that we know is that we have some questions that are coming in. Before we start, we wanted to let you know that remember that this live cast is being recorded. And you see the bit.ly at the bottom down here. That bit.ly will take you to this document where we will be adding the questions as they come in and as we respond to them. In addition to that, what you will see is, these are some of the questions that are already in here. You will see approximately what time in the broadcast that question was answered. So again, you can get a little kind of table of contents really quickly for you to see if that's a question that that you also have been thinking about, or maybe that you also sent to us, approximately where you can find the answer. So hopefully this will be helpful to you, and we will make sure that, again, the bit.ly here is there for you, so you can go ahead and write it down. So we will go ahead and give you a minute. And like we said, as you're writing that down, we want to share kind of something that Josh has already kind of stated. We're getting different types of questions on here. So the main 3 types of questions we're getting are some questions that really the responses should be given by admins. So Celia and I are not administrators, so we can't answer those types of questions. So that's one type of question we're getting. A second type of question and we're kind of grouping this into groups, are a lot of questions around SPED and SPED communication resources, questions that they have, suggestions. So we are definitely kind of getting those together and hopefully getting those to the right department. And then we're also getting some questions that are more relevant to you as an individual. And Celia and I have no problem. We've already been doing this since last week, where if you have a question, you contact us directly, Celia or I, and we actually schedule a meet call, and we're able to share screens. And a lot of times we've been able to solve the challenges or the problems that you may be facing. So those are when they're just unique to you. And then, of course, the last category of questions that we're getting, and the ones that we're going to work on today, are questions around the tools that you have been working with, or maybe some challenges or ideas on how to implement those, the educational technology pieces that we've been sharing. So that's going to be our focus today. We apologize if we cannot answer some of the questions or frustrations that you might have, but know that we do try to get to all of them as much as possible. And then if not, send them to the right department, and we'll continue to do that. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get to our first question. I know that during this time, I might answer it, Celia might jump in, or Josh might jump in. It just depends on our expertise or if we miss something. So please pardon us for jumping over on each other's toes as we are responding to your questions. So Celia, you have the first question for us?
Yeah, so the first question we're going to go with is, in order to post lessons on Google Classroom, does it first need to be in my Google Drive?
Celia, do you want to try to answer that, or you want me to try to answer this? I mean, I think, and I think, again, Josh kind of shared this earlier. Always, we try to understand your question, but sometimes we may not have the context under which you're asking them. But I think what it's asking here is, in Google Classroom, as you're building these resources in a Google Doc, in a presentation, these templates, do they need to be in your Google Drive? The answer is, could be yes or no. Remember that, Celia, do you want to take over? Celia's going to take over so she can show you. Remember that when you are adding resources into Google Classroom, you can import them from different sources. So Celia's going to go ahead and demonstrate that right now.
Right. So it really just depends on what exactly you're trying to do on Google Classroom. If, for example, it's just something that you want to share and you're posting directly on to your stream, then no, like maybe this is just a question like, how are you feeling today? Something like this is just, it can be done on the fly. It's just a question. There is no real content to it. And so I would just type it out, post, done. However, if I were creating an assignment, for example, then depending on the assignment, right, I'm going to go up to classwork to create. Again, depending on the type of assignment, you may find it easier to go from Google Drive, but maybe not. If I'm making an assignment and I want to attach a template that I have in my Drive, then yes, it would be easier to just have it made already in your Drive. You can attach it here straight from your Drive. If it's a file on your computer, then the same thing would apply there. If any of you are using the quiz feature on Google Classroom, it's really easy to just go straight from create an assignment, click on create a quiz, and it will create the Google form for you. In this case, I could have started by making the Google form myself in my Drive. But if you notice, like now that I've gone through starting an assignment with a quiz, Google Classroom has made that assignment for me in the form of a Google form, and it automatically does it for me. This is now in my Drive. And so either way, those resources will either be made directly starting from your Google Drive, and then you can attach them through Google Classroom. In the case of doing like a quiz, you can start from here and Google Classroom will make the quiz for you on the fly. So it really just depends what kind of assignment or what kind of question, what exactly you're trying to get the students to do. So, but I mean, technically either way would work.
And just, just a little pro tip on there, try to keep, I would, always recommend that you work within the Google tools, because they're in your Drive, and therefore you can access them from anywhere, from any device a lot of the times, and be able to assign them through your phone, tablet, or if you're using somebody else's device. So just, I think that's a tip that maybe will help you decide where you should create these assignments or these resources for your lessons.
For sure. Okay, we're gonna get straight to the next question.
And the next question has to do with Screencastify, or those kinds of programs. So we're gonna go ahead and do the question is, could you please help to understand the difference among browser, tab recording, and then desktop recording? That's actually a really good question. So why don't I go ahead and actually demonstrate that live, what the difference is on here. So, so I'm going to go ahead and start here with Screencastify. Remember, here's your Screencastify icon. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it. Once I launch it here, and I believe Mr. Medeiros, he's the one that asked this question. So you have an option on here. Do you want to browse tab or desktop, record? Do you want to record the tab or the desktop? So the difference is, a tab, it could be a tab is just one portion of your browser. So I'll give you an example here. So here I have one tab going on, and I'm going to go ahead and open up a second tab here. Now I have two tabs. So if I choose tab recording and I am in this tab, it will only record what you see here on the screen. However, oh, thank you for, looks like I just got a question on it that I'm not sharing my screen. apologize on that. That was a mistake here. That's what happens when you try something new, but it's okay. We'll go ahead and move forward.
Fix it. It's okay.
So we'll start again here. I apologize, Mr. Maderos, for that question, and all of you that are going, what's going on here? So this had to do, like I said, this had to do with Screencastify, these two options on here between Browse tab and Desktop. So when you do Browser tab, all that it does is records just this tab. So for me, this is the tab that I'm recording right now. So that means that if I put Browse tab, I would only be able to record this. So if I open up a second tab or go to a separate, to another application, it would not be recorded in Screencastify. So you want to think about, am I going to be moving across more than one tab when I'm working with my students? Am I going to moving possibly across more than one desktop here? So here's one desktop. Am I going to move it across desktops and access different apps? Because if you do that, you want to go ahead and you want to use the desktop app, the desktop recording option, not the tab, not the browser recording option. I hope that was helpful. And like I said,
can I chime in here for a second?
Go ahead, Josh.
I think the browser tab, the main difference is if you're only sticking in one tab in your browser, like, you know, George only has one browser here, but let's say you had a Google Slides open, a Google Doc open, like switching from tab to tab in the browser, if you've hit browser tab, you're only going to see that one browser tab. If you have multiple things open, even in Chrome, you should still use the desktop setting.
Thank you, Josh.
Sure.
Celia, hopefully that was helpful on there. So Celia, you have the next question on there?
Yeah, I think we're going to group the next two questions together. So the next question is, how many Google Meets can a person have going at one time? And as far as I know, the rest of my department can chime in, but as far as I know, you can have as many as your computer hardware and memory will allow you to have.
That is the exact correct answer. It's as many as your computer can handle. I have had as many as 4 open at the same time. And what ends up happening is you will hit a point, depending on your device, where the video will get jittery first. And you will look like you're in stop motion, but your sound will be okay. And then at some point, your sound will start to lag. But for everyone watching, as an example, every time we've done interviews here on the live stream, that is 2 different Meet calls open at the same time. That's actually 2 Meet calls and a live stream going at the same time. So
yeah, and I kind of researched this because I didn't know the answer, Josh. And one of the things that it said is that, yeah, you can have multiple calls, but you know, the management of them, especially if you go over 2, can get kind of a little bit crazy.
Yes,
so just, you know, stick to 1 at a time.
Or maybe 2, but
yeah,
depending on what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead, Celia.
Next question, kind of related, is how long can we have a Google Meet open? And that can stay open as long as you like. Josh mentioned earlier that there are some changes that are coming to Google Meet in terms of control from a teacher's perspective. But like we mentioned earlier, the rollout could take a little bit longer. But for now, Google Meet call could stay open as long as you'd like.
Yep. We don't know of any time limit.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. We've already answered that one in order to post to the lesson. So we posted that one. Josh, would you mind helping us with this next one? During a Meet conference and I am in present mode, is there a way to see my class or can I only see my screen?
So yeah, unfortunately, when you're presenting, all you can see really is your screen. It's really difficult to see your class. Here, let me present for a second. And there's like 4 clicks to present, unfortunately. So let's say that this is me teaching, and I'm presenting from these set of slides, right? We're clicking through, we're leading kids to our lesson, and then maybe I jump over here to a website, and then maybe we jump. Because what Meet's doing is let me focus just on what I'm presenting, the only thing I can do is come back to the tab with the Meet call, which is where I am right now, and then click up here into the people control, and I'll back up there for a second, is to zoom in, is to click up into the upper right here, and then click this person control and see who's in. This lets me see who's muted, and maybe looking at the chat. By the way, people who are confused, how do I mute kids if I need to? This is where you do that. You click on the little cellular drop down, and I could pin her, which means we're all looking at her, or I could mute someone else here. But while I'm actually presenting, while I'm showing them what's on my screen, unfortunately, there's no way to do that.
All right, thank you, Josh. We have the next question, which has to do with, I believe this came from Wilma at Alice Out Community. The question was, is there any way to get more than one group of students or classes into, into a live lessons, when you're providing live lessons? That's a great question. I think that this is kind of where some of our thinking, our creativity with problem solving is going to come into play. And I'll give you an example of, I believe it was teachers at Steinbeck, Go Steinbeck. They shared, I believe that they said that their grade level, what they have done is in Seesaw, they have made each other co-teachers. And then what's happening is they're really collaborating. So one of the teachers is working on, say, the math lessons. Another teacher is working on the language arts lessons. And then when they're sending them out to students, or if there's a live link, with the lesson, it goes out to all the classes, and each teacher in that grade level doesn't have to recreate those resources. So if you are collaborating and divvying up the work that way, an idea would be to make yourself a co-teacher in Seesaw and in Google Classroom, so that you can leverage that collaboration and don't have to recreate the work, especially like we said, if your grade level is collaborating really well together and on the same page about what you're going to be teaching. Again, take care of yourself, and by sharing these resources and helping each other, it will definitely help everybody else.
George, can I ask a question? I'm looking in the spreadsheet. I don't see Wilma's question, but was her question about a live lesson, having kids all in a live lesson?
It was more about a live lesson, Josh. Yes.
Okay, so here's my suggestion for that. Is remember, in a Google Meet call, you can have up to 250 students. So if one teacher set up the Meet by using Google Classroom, then the join and invited the other two teachers, then all of the teachers would have the link. All of the teachers could post that link in their respective Seesaw classrooms or Google Classrooms. All three teachers could lead that lesson at the same time, and then all students could join it all together. Now, I will say, Ms. Ramirez, that while I love that innovation, I would suggest before we brought a whole grade worth of kids or more than one class worth of kids into a Meet call for a live lesson, that we get really good with those kids at establishing some norms and some rituals and routines, just as we would in a classroom. I suggest that we start teaching kids that before they join a Meet, they mute their microphone so they come in quietly, right? So they come into the class quietly. So, and that all three, that we do this for a while and our kids get good at it. And then that if you're going to have all three of you, and I would definitely have all three teachers in the lesson at the same time, because while one or two are talking or presenting, I think the other two could be monitoring the chat channel to make sure the kids are staying on task, because the temptation to be chatting and having fun with my friends in the whole 6th grade Meet lesson would be overwhelming if I were 11 years old and in a Meet call with every single person in the grade. So a teacher could be monitoring the chat, one or two, and also sort of going through and using the Meet controls to mute to mute students who are opening their mic when it's not yet time. The other thing that could be happening is while the lesson's going in the chat, teachers could be answering questions as the presenting teacher is presenting. So it's a really good approach. It definitely has some advantages, just like co-teaching would be. It's virtual co-teaching. But there are definitely some considerations, and I suggest that we, in smaller groups, we get our etiquette. So as a grade level team, establish like these are our expectations of students. Make sure we have those practices just like you would with any other set of classroom expectations. Practice them and rehearse them with the kids, and then, you know, just like things change a little bit, behavior changes a little bit when we take kids to assembly. Expect some of that to happen when you go live with larger groups.
Hi, Josh. We've been kind of reviewing the questions, and there's a lot of questions on this regarding YouTube. Would you mind addressing that one more time as an administrator, please?
Sure. Okay. Well, I will walk through this kind of slowly because I'm going to get very technical, and I'm going to put on my super administratory hat right now. I don't actually have a hat, by the way. So because all of our students are under 13, if we opened up YouTube in the admin console, YouTube says by opening it up, we are basically promising Google that we have gotten parent permission. We don't have parent permission right now. It's not part of what we ask parents to do. So we have another way to open it through our content filter. Whenever you're trying to get somewhere on our websites, or your kids are, and they run into that blue or green page with like an outline of the bathroom man, I call it, and it says like this has been blocked or whatever that is. That is Lightspeed, our content filter. So we're looking at a way to do that with our content filter, which will open some things up, but not all the things, because we still have legal obligations to protect children from certain kinds of content. So we can't throw YouTube, we can't throw the barn doors open on YouTube, but we want them open, and we're sort of working on that. I wish I could give you a better timeline, but we've got to gather some information, and then and sort of put some procedures in place, especially when we're working at this sort of a scale, because we expect it all to be sort of hit at once. And I think that's kind of a non-answer, but it's sort of the best answer we have. I'm hoping to have some sort of update for everyone by Friday, which doesn't mean open by Friday. It means an update by Friday. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer.
All right.
In the meantime, you can use your favorite downloader or copier. So this goes back to a question we got from Ms. Shreve. If you are able to pull down or copy a video from YouTube, so this is a copyright and fair use question, or an answer to a copyright and fair use question. And that was if we can copy it or download it and put it in our Google Drive so kids can get at it, or put it in Seesaw or Google Classroom, is that okay? That would most likely fall under fair use because it is in a closed loop, and no one could argue that they are losing money. We would not be financially impacting the creator because we wouldn't be pulling their audience, because it wouldn't be public. So as long as it stays in the closed loop of your classroom or Seesaw or some other way that you might be delivering it only to our students, you can consider that pretty decent. You might want to try using Screencastify, using the browser tab record, turn on tab audio, just record the video playing. I haven't tried this. I made this answer up as I'm speaking, but you could give that a shot and see if that works. Georgia Celia, do we have another one?
Yeah, sorry about that.
We were having a discussion.
Yes. So the next question.
Clearly you were. Yes.
The next question is, from it's Sally's going to take it. And how do students log into Google Meet? What are the steps, and how do I get the Meet link to Seesaw, or perhaps even Classroom?
Right.
Okay.
So I kind of grouped all these together because it sounds more like what are the steps to get students onto a Google Meet call. And I know some people have already had their own meets with students, and so I know that a lot of people already do know how to do this, but for anybody who's interested, if I were doing this and I wanted to get my students on a Meet call, I would start from my calendar. And so it doesn't necessarily, so if I wanted, for example, today, I wanted to have a Meet call with my students, maybe I say that we're gonna do math support today. So I can title it whatever I like. The students aren't going to see the title, but this is just so you can get the Meet started. And so I would start this event. From this shortcut, I can add location or conferencing. And conferencing is Google Meet. And so from here, I'm going to click there, add conferencing straight from this event. And now this Google Meet link has been created. This link is the link that you want to get to students. And so if you're using Seesaw, then you would send this link through Seesaw. But the same would apply if you're using Google Classroom. So the steps for the teacher are create an event, add conferencing so that you have a Google Meet link. Once you have that link, you can, one second. We're not gonna click on it because it's gonna get me into it. But I would want to just copy this link, and that link is the one that I need to get to students. And so now that I've copied it, right, so copy it from there. If you're working on Seesaw, then you would go to Seesaw. My teacher, perfect. This is my teacher account. I'm gonna go up to the add. I'm going to click on add link. I'm going to paste the Google Meet link on here. Green check mark. Green check mark. I want it to go to all of my students. Green check mark. And now all of my students have access to this link. So from their side, they would log on to their Seesaw account, click here, and it's going to take them directly to that link that I've copied. I'm going to delete this just so nobody has access to it, since it is technically a live link. But on Seesaw, that's what you would do.
And that is what you want to do, right, Celia? It's like once the students have all left the phone call, once the students, you're done doing the phone call or the group meeting, and all the students have left, you want to delete that link from Seesaw or from Google Classroom so that the students aren't going back in there and kind of having these meetings without you, for lack of a better, I guess, explanation there.
If you're doing this in Google Classroom, the same thing would apply. Like if I really just want to get a link quickly out to students, I probably would just do it straight from the stream. I could just link that, make sure it goes to all of the students. This is the class that I wanted to go to, and I could just post it straight from the stream. Students would click on there, and that's it, right? So live link, they would go on here, click, and it would take them straight directly to that meeting.
And hopefully, what Celia just showed answered the question. Another question just came in. What tool do I use in Seesaw to meet with students? Again, the tool that you are using to meet with students is Google Meet, and you're doing that by using the link that in the manner that Celia just showed you. So I hope that answers that question, Ms. Chavez at Fremont. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go to the next question. If I want to post a student message to just one student, but only that student to see it, I don't want to create 25 assignments in order to post. Is an assignment necessary in order to do this? So yeah, this is kind of a really good question, and it has, let me go ahead, and it has, where did it go here? Oops, sorry, I wasn't, oh, sorry. There we go, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and take over here. So the easiest way to do that is through, in Seesaw, there's really an easy way to do it. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you with my teacher account on here. I'll show you in Seesaw, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the classroom option. And I'm saying Seesaw. Oops, there's a student there that shows up. Let me switch to a teacher account. So I wanted to show you Seesaw because I think Seesaw has a more elegant and easier option to do that. So if you have your students all in there and you go to the, I'm in Ben's class on here again, and you go to the inbox message on here, and you know what? I'm going to switch to my class so I don't mess with Ben's class here. So if you go into the inbox here, you have the option to send messages, and notice that you can send student announcements or family messages. If you click student announcements here, you can create an announcement, and you can send who this goes to. So you can, let's take a look on here. So let's create the test message on here. You can add an attachment on here, and then you could also go ahead and ask and add on here, add students on here, but it looks like that is only the 10 students, huh? But we should be able to send a private message, I believe. Sorry, haven't done this before.
Announcements.
Under announcements, family announcements, send a family announcement. Now you could go ahead and pick on here, also all families?
Are you trying to do one at a time?
Individual message. I thought you could do it from here. Has that been
Not
changed?
from an announcement. Sorry, I thought you were trying to get to
sorry.
everybody. You go to, you just go to the journal.
Okay, go to the journal. Post gonna work. Sorry, my post. Oh, sorry, journal.
If you click
Pick
on
the
the
student. So if I want to
students.
send it to Barbara, I would go ahead and click the plus. Then I would click send announcement.
Try it.
And then this would, no, it still only does it.
Yeah,
No,
an announcement's still going to be for everybody, but like you could post something. You could post like student work and just select that
So
one
this would
student.
be, let's say you want to send a message. Remember, you could send it through a drawing. You could send it a note. You know, please read this. And then what you want to do is you press the green check mark up here. Okay. And when you do that, when I do that, I can go ahead and actually select, do I want to send it to all my students? So I click that. Or do I want to send it to just Barbara? And I click on that. So that's in Seesaw, that's the easy way to send a message, a private message that only that student would see. Okay, so that's the easy, that's the way to do it in Seesaw. In Google Classroom, it's a little bit different, mostly because our students do not have their email set up. It's not turned on for them. So the easiest way really in this case is there is no easy way to send it to all of them because their emails are turned off. However, what you could do if this is, remember, anytime you create a question, anytime you create an assignment, what you can do is you can actually send feedback or comments that are just private to that student, that only that student can see. And to do that, let me see, students would have to turn some work in. So let me see if I can find a class where students have turned in some work on here. So let me find a class here that I have, test with students here. Test students, let's check and see if there's any classwork that has been turned in. There isn't anything that's been turned in on here. So I apologize here, but there is a way, you know, you would have to do a private message or a private comment on what students have answered on here. Celia?
Actually, that's related to another question that we got, which I feel like you've pretty much already answered, but another question that we had was, I'm wondering if there's a way to send a group email to all parents, but also keep their email information private, so that it takes some time off of the task, but still secures parent information. But I kind of feel like you answered that in like Seesaw.
Seesaw is probably the better way to do it. If you want to send it to a group of parents, and they will all get to see it, but they don't see each other's, you know, contact information for privacy. That's a really good question to keep in mind. So I was going to go back to this question because I kind of found an example now of if I wanted to send a message that's just private to that student. Again, there's no easy way to do it without the emails being turned on. But if they have assignments on here, you can definitely do that. So I'll give you an example. So here's a response from Miss Aguilera here. So if I click on the response that she wrote for me, I can go ahead and if I click over here on the right-hand side for a response on here, there's the 3 dots. Oops, where did it go here? Let's go ahead and let's see. So the students that have turned it in here, I can go ahead and click on her response here, turned in. And I should be able to send a message here. Do you know where the messages are, Celia here? I should be able to click on her response here. Actually, here's the question on here, student responses. Then if I click on Maria de Luz, okay, I can go ahead and click here. So that only that student would get the message. So I would respond on here, Maria, I can go ahead and write whatever I'm going to write on here. And if you do it here, they will be the only ones that get the message. You post it to them, and they would be the only ones that get the message. So private message just to that student, and only you and that student would see it. So no easy way, but it would have to be within an assignment or response to feedback to an assignment that they have completed. Okay.
So George, if I can chime in here, the question about sending parents a group email to parents to keep their email information private so it takes some time off this task. Like, am I just naive and like, does everybody understand how to use BCC and what that means? Do you think? I mean, am I being too simplistic here? Let me present real quick, and I'll make sure we'll just make sure everyone knows how to do that in Gmail. So here I am in my Gmail, and let me zoom in here. So you have your 2-line, and some people don't necessarily notice that the CC and the BCC are here. This means carbon copy, and this means blind carbon copy, and those are left over from the days when from pre-email days when memos used to go out on what's called NCR paper, or you put carbon between and it would make a carbon copy, carbon sheet. So BCC is a blind carbon copy. So if you BCC someone, what a very typical thing to do is to email something to yourself and put everyone else in the BCC. And that way, 2 things. 1, they can't use reply all to start, the massive reply all things that happen sometimes. And second, they don't see each other's emails. And we can, you can make a contact group. So if you have all your parents' email, you can put them into one contact group. So you can, instead of having to type every parent's email all the time, you can just type out, for example, parents 2020, and they will all automatically populate. I can make a Screencastify tutorial on that later today and put it up on the website if folks are interested in that. Okay. Thanks, George. That's all I needed to say.
All right, Celia is going to go ahead and work on the next question. The next question, Josh, have to do, I think, questions that you might need to jump in. And there seems to be a lot of anxiety, and understandably so, about what our expectations are with regards to instruction, minutes, testing. Celia, you want to go ahead and kind of chunk all these up together?
Sure. So the first one's pretty easy, Josh. What are we going to do about testing? If you could answer that, like IABs, state testing.
Well, I can answer for sure that that SBAC or CASP or whatever we're calling it has been waived by the governor. So I know we're not doing that this year. And I think that's I think it's been, I think we had to get, the governor had to get permission from the US Department of Ed to do that. But I'm 95% sure that's been waived. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's been waived. Also, how would we ensure test security? I think if we did CASP this year, we'd find out what our parents know on CASP. Our scores would shoot through the roof and then go back to baseline. The IABs and such, that would be Dr. H's purview. And as George and Celia can tell you, We've kind of been in our own like special operations ed tech bunker here for the last couple of weeks. So I will definitely reach out to Dr. Hernandez and ask if we're going to be doing that. So I don't want to speak on his behalf. If either of you know something and I missed an email, please chime in. But as far as I know, Governor Newsom, working with the U.S. Department of Ed, has waived CASP for the year.
Yeah, that was my understanding. So all state like governments, even like the LPAC, has been waived, and so we shouldn't.
Sorry, you can't hear. Go ahead.
We shouldn't be expecting those. But in terms of local summative testing or benchmark testing, I think we're going to have to wait and see what we hear from Dr. H. I think the next couple of questions, Josh, are about what's expected in terms of instruction. So there's a question about whether instruction is expected to be Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday. So I'm not sure if you could answer that.
Okay, so this is kind of what I was talking about in the opening today. It's a really good question. And it's a bit of what I was talking about, this being the beta week. I don't want to set anything definitive right now, and that's why because some of that's still being worked out, and we have to make sure that everyone understands the principals, the APs, the coaches, the teachers, right? I know that Mr. Tran and Ms. Anso and I were working with some other administrators to set out definitive guidelines. Right now, I think that we're going to find, this is what I was talking about this morning about moderate your expectations on content coverage. And again, it means instruction. What do you mean by instruction in this question? Do you mean like live presenting the entire time? Do you mean hosting open office hours? Do you mean that screencasts are available for your kids? I think currently currently the expectation right now is that I don't know that you need to be sending out brand new lessons every day, because I just don't know if our kids are going to be able to do that, or if you're going to be able to support every kid that we're connecting with brand new content every single day. What we're seeing as best practices in remote instruction or distance learning, or whatever you want to call it, is that teachers set out a weekly plan at the beginning of the week, and you try to get through some of that content. I think that our kids should definitely be reading every day. And I think that being available for kids to reach out if they need help Monday through Friday, or rather during school days, right? So we have spring break coming up. Spring break is spring break. Vacation's vacation. Remote instruction is not vacation, but the week of April 6th, I believe, is that. So, of course, we don't expect you to be available to that unless that changes, which, welcome to COVID-19 new normal. But I don't see that. I don't see that coming. So, yeah, in terms of like specific minutes per day, I don't think the day is going to be structured like that. I think opportunities for your students to get help. I think lesson screencasts and some live lessons happening, but like you're definitely not expected to be live streaming to your kids, or not live streaming, but in a meet call or live streaming to your kids from 8 to 3. It's just, I mean, when would you go to the bathroom? And don't make the mistake of carrying the laptop with you to the bathroom while you're on a meet call. Just saying. Have you seen it going around Facebook? In any case, so I think right now, what I was talking about in the opening is plan a couple things, and I mean a couple of things per day for the first couple of days, and see what your students can actually do. Really be intentional about those check-ins, and find out how long things are taking them. Because remember, you're not there to support them, and they don't have each other to lean on the way that they normally would. So, but what we're hoping is that in the next couple of days, we get something a little more black and white, a little more concrete. But I think those are are our best guidelines at this point. I think at the very least, making sure that you are available for kids to be able to check in Monday through Friday. Remember, working from home is still working. I think that's the best answer I can give on that right now.
And I think that also kind of addresses the following question, just in terms of like, how do we prepare for an entire school day? Do we build office hours? But I feel like Josh has been commenting about how to structure. I think I would definitely opt for having office hours, but I do kind of feel like that's a very individual thing. We've had some teachers come in and do a little guest spot the other day with Josh in terms of like how the meets have gone with their students. And so there are teachers who are holding office hours, and it is very just like drop in. They pop in if they have a question. Some teachers are doing like small group lessons via Meet. And so, I mean, all good practices. We're going to take one more question before going on breaks. I know we've been here for over an hour. And this last question is, can a teacher unmute a student on Meet? Unless I am mistaken, there is no way to unmute people. You can mute people just fine, as Josh was showing earlier. But once they're muted, they're going to have to go onto their microphone to unmute themselves. Unless somebody's going to correct me, speak now or forever hold your peace.
No, you're right. Forever holding my peace.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So as Sally was saying, we're about ready to go into a break. So we're going to take 10 minutes break. You know, we're almost caught up with all the questions. So please, during this break, if you have any additional questions, please submit them, because if we don't see any, then we're going to assume that we might come back and just close for the day, and then we'll go ahead and think about our next plans. So again, we're going to go ahead and take a break. So thank you for listening. Hopefully we'll see you back in about 10 minutes.
Welcome back, everybody.
All right, let me go ahead and get the questions up. A few more questions have come up, so we're going to go ahead and get started on this. So the very first question that we want to address is regards to SPED staff. So a couple of things before we kind of get into it. Josh, just so you know, Josh, after towards the end of this, he is compiling a lot of questions with regards to the SPED concerns for the SLPs, counselors, and so forth. So he might be addressing some of those or making or kind of talking to some of those points towards the end of our presentation on here, but of our live cast today. So what I wanted to share is SPED staff getting errors when using Seesaw through Portal, how to fix this. So I want to go ahead and actually show you what is probably happening, and I want to go ahead and do this live for you. So what I wanted to let you know is that for most of us, are classroom teachers, and we have classes. However, some of us, like myself, I am a coach or instructional coaches, counselors, RSP teachers that don't have their own self-contained classes. Their portal experience is a little bit different. So I want to go ahead and show you what happens once you log in through the portal. So if you're trying, Google is not an issue for anybody else. It's Seesaw. So if you are a SPED person or somebody that has, that's a TOSA, that's a counselor, that's a speech and language pathologist or so forth, you do not have your own classes. So when you click on Seesaw, this is the error that you're going to get. And I get this also. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to fix it. So you either get some kind of error where you can try to log in, but most of the time, actually, I just tried it and I got a different error. So it's interesting on here that that I'm getting a different error than I usually get. So let's see here, district admin log. So I earlier got an error that told me that it's a clever error. It looks different than what I just got on here. So I don't know why it gave me this one. Let's try it one more time. But anyway, what's going on is since you do not have a class, you need to be added to Seesaw for Schools. So if you are one of those people, you do not have a self-contained class, please contact us at EdTech Department, edtech@alisal.org, and send us an email letting us know what site you are at and you would like to be added to Seesaw so that you will be able to create your own Seesaw classes. So please, again, email us individually at each of you at edtech@alisal.org, and we will set that up for you. We've gotten a couple of you that have requested that already, so we should be set as soon as we're done with this live cast. We will get you set up. We will get you set up for that. Celia, you have something to add?
Yes, just to note that we've already had some people who have like these, what I would think of as like specialty groups, like intervention teachers, RSP teachers, speech, who have these counselors who have these groups of students. And so they've asked, well, I want to get a Seesaw group started for my group of students who already have a general ed like homeroom teacher. And so we're working on getting a screencast done so that you know how to do that. There's something you need to consider when trying to add students onto a Seesaw classroom, for example. So email us so that we can get you connected to your school. But then in terms of creating that group of students, there are a couple of things you need to know that are a little tricky if you just didn't know. And so instead of you trying to do them on your own, we could just ask you to give us like another day or two to get the screencast to you, so then we can show you how to make that group of students correctly. So that, again, any work that students do in their journal gets linked to their correct account, because otherwise it'll just create some chaos as we've already experienced.
All right. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and pass it over to Josh so he can go ahead and kind of try to address some of these questions that are coming with regards to our SPED students. Obviously, we want to make sure that they are, getting as much of this instruction as possible. So I'll go ahead and pass that over to Josh.
Okay, folks. So we had some, the first two here in gray, which I will try to zoom in a little bit for you. Oh, can't zoom in present mode. Or maybe you can. I'll just zoom that sucker in right there for you. These are kind of the same thing, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it along. Can I ask to pass the message to all teachers to add SLP, speech language pathologist specialist, as a co-teacher to their class, either Google Class or Seesaw? We really need your help to pass this message so we can start providing our teletherapy sessions. Next one, can you remind everyone that if a speech or any SPED teachers request access to Gen Ed digital classrooms, please allow so that they can get information to their students and collaborate with a Gen Ed teacher. So again, I'm positive we have covered in the live stream how to add co-teachers in both Seesaw and Google Classroom. Reach out to us if you're having a particular issue with that. But this is like, basically think of push-in services in a digital way. We really need you to be on top of that. So I know that the message, I know that the message went out last week in Google Classroom to make sure you add your administrator, but please add your SLP, any support provider who needs to. And I would add them, even if you're mainly using one platform over the other, please add them to both just in case. And you know, I know that some of us really don't like checking our work email, but it's kind of mission critical right now. So we're just going to ask folks to really keep that collaborative eye going. Okay, so now we're going down to, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, to this one. Many of the SLPs, so this was 2 questions. Want to use Zoom? Can that be set up on iPads for life skills students whose devices didn't go home, and how can we get them to parents once uploaded? So Zoom is not what we are supporting officially for any web conferencing or calls. We are going with Google Meet. We know it's HIPAA and FERPA compliant, and frankly, it's much easier to use than Meet. There, as I said earlier in today's live stream, Meet is usable by anyone outside the district. As far as iPads, you'd have to get the Zoom app and go through the setup, as opposed to going through the Meet app, where you just get the Meet app and then you send the parents a link and it would take them to Meet on an iPad. And you know, we've had teachers ask for Zoom for whatever reason, maybe more robust teacher controls, and I've addressed that earlier today, that those are coming for Meet. But there are privacy concerns, there are student and parent permission concerns. We have parent permission for Meet. We do not have it for Zoom. It's the same situation we're dealing with on YouTube. You might be more familiar with Zoom, but trust me, I am literally talking with ed tech professionals all around the state, and starting kids on Zoom remote is turning into a mess. And a lot of those districts are going back to Meet because it's much simpler. Same thing's going to be true with parents who are not used to using a video conference thing. You know, going back to the question earlier, you don't need to log kids into Zoom. You just need to send them a link. Kind of the same thing for our parents. There is a phone app for Meet. You can access Meet for phone calls. If you want to do teletherapy with Meet, because I assume that's the same, it's related to the same thing. You might be more familiar with Zoom, but Meet is what we are officially supporting as a district, especially when working with kids, because we know for a fact it's HIPAA and FERPA compliant, and we know for a fact we have those permissions. And I really need to stress that just because certain things are being waived or companies are making things free does not mean using them complies with all the laws that we must still comply with. Is there any way to get noise canceling headphones for them? I'm going to recommend that you talk to Dorianne or Dr. Ariano on this, because that seems very specific, and I really feel like answering that question would be speaking for someone else, so I'm not comfortable with doing that. This last one is, how can we install text to speech or speech to text? Google Chrome extensions for students who need these accommodations. Do we have recommendations? Yeah, our first recommendation is, and we will be talking about this later this week, is that a lot of those accessibility things are built into the accessibility settings in a Chromebook. I believe the text-to-speech one is called Chromebox, and so that anything that comes up in the browser that they click on, it will read aloud to them. Speech-to-text, I know that in Google Docs, there is voice typing, and I think it might be in some other places too. So the text-to-speech is already built into the accessibility settings, and I know that we were talking about doing that PD sooner or later. If some of our SPED folks want a special session on that, then we might call a small instead of doing it in the live stream. But some of that is already there. And in terms of what would be the process for that is we would work with IT to push that out to student devices. Students do not have permissions to install extensions on their own because they could put not just inappropriate things, but sort of malware things. George and Celia, are there any other questions that you've seen that you want to be addressing at the moment?
Celia?
I think the only maybe comment that we're gonna leave with, because as we're getting pretty close to closing, is just that we've seen a lot of questions that we feel like could be better answered either via email or in maybe like a direct one-on-one meet, just in terms of like the specificity. If somebody's like looking for something really specific, it may be just better to contact us directly. Or some people are asking for like overviews of specific tools. Just a quick reminder that like all of these tools that we've talked about, like we did an overview of Seesaw, we did an overview of Google Meet, all those things that we've already done have been recorded. And so if you need a refresher on those tools, I would direct you to our remote instruction website, because all of these recordings are being posted on there. And so if you needed that refresher, it would probably be easiest to just go to the recording and then you can watch it whenever you have time. You could watch it at your own speed. You could rewatch it and get some practice in that way.
And as Sally was saying, we definitely have no issues helping you one-on-one with your particular questions on there. But I think we're trying to just answer them as quickly as possible. And if we've covered them, show you where you can go. If I may, I would, if I may also say is, if you go to our website, to our resources website, you will actually see little videos, little screencasts, and beside the videos, it'll actually give you a description of what happens in each of the videos here. So for example, some of you have asked about how can I comment on a student's document? There's actually a little short screencast, usually less than 5 minutes, that can go ahead and show you how to do that, and you don't have to watch, a whole hour and a half screencast. So go into the website, and as Josh was saying, he's kind of, you can see him sharing the website here, and under under each of the tools, when you go tools for teaching, for example, if you go into Classroom or Seesaw, you will see these short little videos that actually, you'll see our presentations also, but you will actually see down below, you will see actually short little videos, for example, how to create a class, how to comment. So very specific things, and like I said, each of those videos are less than are usually about 5 minutes. So there will be a very quick screencast that you will be watching, and I think that will help your answers. But please continue to send us those questions, and if we need to set up on one-on-one conference calls so that we can share our screen and you can share your screen with us and we can solve that, we will do that. So thank you for your patience on this. Celia has one final announcement, maybe?
We have a special visitor.
Awesome.
So I was like, oh, wait. So before Josh, we get to the closing, we actually have somebody who walked in who you don't even know is here, probably. So I think we're gonna hand over the mic.
Yeah.
In a quick second to our visitor.
So we'll introduce him on here.
Like turn on the video for him.
Yeah,
so we have our video off, but like we'll turn it on. We need the video on.
All right.
Turn the camera.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like special occasion.
Let me stop presenting.
Here, let me share our screen here.
We don't have to share your screen.
Oh, we don't have to share our screen?
No, I just need to stop presenting.
Okay. There we go. So we have here Mr. Tran, and hopefully he can go ahead and help us with some of the questions that have come up. And It's all yours, Mr. Tran.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for. I know I'm crashing the COVID-19 party here. Anyway, perhaps a few questions regarding instructions regarding having to do with a little bit more beyond the educational technology portion of it, which is I am ill-equipped to address ed tech. But if it comes to instruction, packaging, material, curriculum, here's an opportunity. So, is there any particular question that I could address at this point?
There was a few of them, Mr. Tran. One of them was, and you've kind of already been mentioned, but like with regards to what could the day look like for me as a teacher as I'm doing this remote instruction,
And the week.
and the week. What could that? What does that look like? Am I expected to do all day worth of screencasts? How much am I expected to
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday?
Monday
Those
through
kinds of
Thursday.
questions and
Do we have to
accountability.
mirror exact brick and mortar minutes?
So most of the recommended practices so far, when you're shifting in-person instruction to that of online instruction, is that planned for the entire week, kind of a scoping and scope and sequences. For example, we're focusing on teaching English language art, ELD, and math, and perhaps a little bit more of a supplementary. We're going to bring some California Science Academy units into it as we move along. So let me say that again. We are focusing on providing instruction in English language art, ELA, ELD, and math throughout the entire week, with some additional units from the California Science Academy as we develop and as we move along. The recommendation is thinking about 3 hours of instruction per subject per week. Let me say that again. It's about 3 hours of instruction per subject per week. Okay? So when you're thinking the context of a child sitting in front of a computer for 6-7 hours a day, that's really not workable. It just not going to work. So within the structure where you're planning out for the week, up to about 3 hours of screen time for reading, for watching the screencast of your explanation, walking through the daily updates, and then going to the subject itself, teaching it. So it's about 6 hours total for math and English language or ELD per week. So my recommendation is I'm drafting out the schedule for the week is to chunk it out every 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday and Thursday together. So we're going to roll out that format slowly to through the system, and hopefully we'll have it ready to send out by tonight. So the daily instructional program, where we used to think of I have to teach math for 90 minutes or language art for 90 minutes per day, that doesn't work when it comes to online instruction. Online instruction, one of those weird things is that when you check for students' understanding to be ready to go from one topic to the next, it takes a whole lot longer online because they're not in front of you. In an in-person setting, the children will raise their hands and you can, within 30 seconds, you can move on. But with one-on-one, it takes a bit different, but particularly it's online. And the state is recommending that at this point, let's begin to shift our mindset, is that everything we used to do in person take twice as long at the minimum when you go online. So therefore, give enough time because it takes twice as long. And here's an important part: the children won't be able to stay in front of the computer, in front of the screen, hour after hour after hour. So there's some time you have to say, for the next 30 the next 30 minutes or the next 45 minutes, I'd like you to log into this particular link and read through and do some independent study on their own. That is, as we're rolling out, you're going to see a lot of that as well. So let me repeat some of the parameters that we were planning on. Is about 3 hours of instructional time. Think of it as direct interaction with the children per subject per week, not per day, not 90 minutes per subject per day. No, we're thinking about 3 hours, a little bit less, a little bit more, but not like inundating children with screen time, because it doesn't work that way. I'm going to see if any other questions regarding that.
Do you remember any other particular question?
No, there was one question about local summative tests. We know the governor has scratched state testing, but in terms of like local district benchmarks and assessments.
As of right now, we are suspending all of our local assessment until we receive more exactly how do we protect the integrity or the the validity of the test, and plus the fact is that when instruction is severely disrupted and we keep insisting on assessing children to measure their growth, that doesn't connect very well. Our district is unique is that we will take our instructional program online and keep on instructing the children to the best of our ability. A large number of districts in California at this time is actually just kind of dialing down, and they just sort of like in between waiting for more instruction, for more information coming from the state. We're ramping it up and trying to keep up with the instruction, trying to teach new context, new concept. But you and I know that this is not anywhere near the same level of expertise, of the level of gain, the level of when you have in person. So assessment locally at this point, I need to address that across the board, and we'll have more information. But as of right now, we're not planning to do any local assessments at this time. Now, state assessment and federal mandated assessment has been suspended until further notice. So all the CAS, the SBAC, even the LPAC has been, they all have been kind of suspended until further notice. And by most account, I do not see the school district being able to resolve this whole scenario within a couple of weeks. It's going to take a bit longer. And so more information to come, but as of right now, if I would just address us to focus on instruction, just on instruction, and keep the children looped in and connected, and not so much of worrying about testing or anything along that line.
All right. So with that being said, Mr.
You mentioned grouping Monday and Tuesday. I'm just a disembodied voice at this point. You mentioned grouping Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Thursday. What might a Friday look like?
Friday, as we're rolling out the program beginning Wednesday, I am proposing that we save Friday morning for district-wide mandatory training, the kind of training you've been receiving from EdTech up to this point. So weekly, we're hoping to set aside the morning of Friday for mandatory training, questions and answers, and even additional information that we need to share out with all of our staff. And then sometime also, if let's say we're not using the entire Friday morning, site could put together PD activities for site in the context of the schools itself. In the afternoon for Friday, we would propose that would be GLT collaboration, time to open up your record keeping to report all of the activities you've done throughout the week, and as well as set up some, we'll call it almost like a university level where you have office hours. You would schedule students to contact them either online, phone calls, or email, and to contact parents. So Friday is almost like a university setup whereby you instruct the children for 4 days a week. On Friday, we'll set aside morning for mandatory district level training, some specific site training depending on your site, your principal, GLT collaboration. We will also be looking at reporting all of the work we have done during that week, as well as contacting students and parents. So that Friday. Now, as soon as we moving on and no more, that we won't have the need for PDs, maybe we can rotate Friday into the instructional program as well. But for the first few weeks, or maybe up to a month or so, we're going to maintain Friday as a day to catch up, to contact, to receive training.
So you heard it here first, folks.
On the screen.
Sorry. You heard it here first, folks. This Wednesday will be the last Wednesday of Livestream PD, and then we'll go down to just Fridays after this week.
That's exactly what we're trying to say, yes.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead. Josh, is there anything else you want to do before I close it up?
Close the over, so I'll close to my.
Okay, so I'm going to pass this over to Josh. So thank you, Mr. Tran, for coming in.
Now I want more live visitors to come by. So like if anybody from the district, feels like hopping by, like that would actually make me happy. Like someone come visit us.
We feel a little bit lonely. So yeah, thank you for coming by. Thank you.
But we will point out that live visitors are perfectly welcome to observe social distancing. And everybody be healthy.
Totally.
Okay.
There you go, Josh, it's all yours.
Okay. So a couple of things to close out is we've gotten some questions on Google Voice, and I really apologize for not getting to this sooner. I would actually like you to see my face, so let me turn my camera on. We apologize for not addressing this sooner. It's one of those things that keeps coming up, and we keep putting it in the mix, and then we keep forgetting. So what is Google Voice? It's basically a way to make phone calls without people finding your phone number. And we understand that you would like to protect that. So here's the thing about Google Voice. It's like, first off, on an iPhone and probably on Android, there are ways to hide your phone number already. And we will be working on tutorials to do that without using Google Voice specifically. Google Voice covers voicemail and texting. It has some nifty features. However, here's the deal. For you to use it with your own free personal Google Voice account is free. If we use it as a district, so I keep getting, will the district provide, will the district provide, will the district provide? It will cost us $7,000 to $9,000 a month. And that's just to make sure that we have everyone who might want to use it covered. So at this point, we're going to suggest that you use it with your own Google account. Josh, I don't have a Google account, or I don't want it tied to my Google account. Okay, well, Gmail accounts are free, so you can start one that you're never going to use and associate a Google Voice number, and the app can go on your phone. It does things like transcribes your emails, and it lets you decide if you want to take calls or decline calls, so you can receive calls to it, but you don't have to, like, it won't just automatically ring the phone. It's pretty nifty. The last thing is the Livestream PD time of day. So as Wednesday is the last one until we go to Fridays only next week, here's the deal. You heard Mr. Tran say that they were required. I'm sure you heard last week that they were required to view, and I'm sure everybody assumed that that was time-bound, but it's not time-bound, meaning that it's always recorded and it's always put up on the website. And as long as you watch it, you don't have to watch it live. The advantage to watching it live is you can interact with us and ask questions as we go. The advantage to watching it recorded is you can watch it when it works better for you. Just know that if we've covered stuff in the Livestream PDs, we might direct you to the Livestream PD when you ask some of the questions. Because, for example, there were things in the opening of Livestream PD today that then got asked again, and we addressed them again. But just going back to that, the efficiency and trying to be as efficient as we can and get to as many people as we can. So just to say, like, if you don't already have the bit.ly, how do we get to the remote instruction resources page for the district? So here we are on the LSL website. We come down to Educational Services under Divisions. Then next to Mr. Tran's pretty picture, we click on Educational Technology. And then below my mediocre picture, you click on LSL Remote Instruction Resources, and it brings you to the web page. The Livestream PD, as soon as the videos are processed in Google Drive, they are put up here. You see there's a little synopsis, even the one that Ben does, the one that Ana Cordero is doing, that will get put here. If you click on Tools for Teaching, we have a separate page for each of the 4 main tools. There's a link to the Chromebook App Hub, if we click on one of these or we click the drop down, you can find the things that we were talking about, the resources. So remember later today, whoops, excuse me, I'm lost. Remember later today, Ana Cordero at 1:30 for primary teachers. You should check your email. I don't have that link. Ana has that link and she can send it to you. And tomorrow at 9:30, again for primary teachers. Although I'm betting if you really want to get into Seesaw, I bet you're going to be able to learn some cool stuff from Ben tomorrow morning at 9:30. But he will be continuing Seesaw activities, making and sending Seesaw activities. And again, he's going to be talking about primary content, but I bet you could pick up some skills from them. That will be tomorrow morning. I will send out those links, but if you have the links from the last time Ben presented, they'll be the same links. In any case, thank you all for your questions and participation. Thank you for your continued support. We will continue to support and serve the LSL to the best of our ability. This is us signing off until we won't see you again until Wednesday. Be good to yourself, be good to each other, and be good to our kids. And we hope that you have a great day. And thanks for coming.